The research station orbited a forgotten moon at the edge of explored space, its sleek exterior a testament to human determination. Dr. Elena Rodriguez adjusted her neural interface, holographic data streams dancing around her with intricate complexity. Years of research had led her to this moment, a discovery that could reshape humanity's understanding of its place in the galaxy. The Galactic Confederation database flickered before her eyes, centuries of collected information becoming a living, breathing puzzle. Most researchers would have been overwhelmed, but Elena saw patterns where others saw chaos. Her specialty wasn't just xenohistory. It was understanding the invisible threads that connected civilizations. Outside the station's transparent aluminum windows, the moon's cratered surface reflected the distant starlight. Elena remembered the stories her grandmother used to tell, tales of how humans were once considered little more than primitive explorers, confined to a single solar system. Now they had spread to dozens of colony worlds, but the Confederation still viewed them with condescension. Her latest analysis revealed something extraordinary. The Confederation's technological development had actually slowed to a near standstill over the past 3 centuries. While other species celebrated their supposed advancement, they had become trapped in a cycle of incremental improvements and bureaucratic stagnation. Humanity, by contrast, had maintained a remarkable capacity for rapid innovation and adaptation. A notification chimed softly. Dr. Marcus Kimura, her research partner, was requesting a secure connection. She accepted, and his holographic form materialized, a slightly translucent image of a man in his mid-40s, with intense eyes and a network of complex data visualizations floating around him. "Tell me you found something," Marcus said, his voice a mixture of exhaustion and hope. Elena manipulated the holographic data, expanding a complex network of interconnected points. The Confederation's technological infrastructure is built on a fundamentally flawed system. They've created what amounts to a galactic bureaucracy that actively prevents genuine innovation. She zoomed in on specific data points, revealing intricate patterns of technological suppression. Research grants, planetary development protocols, and interstellar communication networks were all designed to maintain the current power structure. Any truly disruptive technology was systematically identified and neutralized long before it could challenge the existing order. "It's more than just resistance to change," Elena continued. "They've created a self-reinforcing system that punishes original thinking. Each species is assigned a specific technological role, with strict limitations on development. Humans are technically classified as a developing species, which is essentially a bureaucratic way of saying we're not considered a serious player in galactic politics." Marcus whistled softly. "That's a dangerous observation, Elena. The Confederation doesn't take kindly to challenges to its classification systems." She smiled, a glint of determination in her eyes. "That's precisely why this matters. Our capacity for unexpected solutions is our greatest strength. The Confederation sees patterns, we see opportunities." The research station's artificial gravity hummed softly, a reminder of the technological achievements humans had already accomplished. Elena had spent her entire career studying the complex relationships between advanced civilizations, but this discovery was different. It wasn't just an academic observation. It was a potential roadmap for fundamental change. Her neural interface began compiling a comprehensive report. Each data point was meticulously cross-referenced, every conclusion supported by layers of evidence. This wasn't just a theory. It was a systematic deconstruction of the Galactic Confederation's most fundamental assumptions about technological development and species potential. "We need to be careful how we present this," Marcus warned. "If we're too direct, they'll simply classify the research and bury it." Elena nodded, her fingers dancing across the holographic interface. "We won't present it as a challenge. We'll frame it as a comparative study of technological adaptation. Let them underestimate us. That's always been humanity's secret weapon." As the first draft of the report took shape, Elena couldn't shake the feeling that she was witnessing the beginning of something extraordinary. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity was far more than just another developing species. They were a force of unexpected potential, ready to rewrite the rules of galactic civilization. The moon continued its silent orbit, a quiet witness to the research that would soon change everything. The frontier colony of New Horizon hung like a fragile jewel against the darkness of space. Massive agricultural domes and interconnected habitat modules created a patchwork of human resilience on a planet that most galactic species would have deemed inhospitable. Captain Marcus Chen stood on the primary observation deck, watching the incoming Confederation patrol ships approach with calculated precision. His communication officer, Lieutenant Area Kim, broke the silence. "Confederation ships are transmitting relocation orders, sir. They're demanding we evacuate within 72 hours. Marcus studied the holographic display, his fingers tracing the projected approach vectors. The Confederation had been systematically displacing human colonies for years, claiming resource management and galactic stability as their justification. But New Horizon was different. This colony represented more than just another settlement. It was a testament to human adaptation and determination. The colony had been established on a world with extreme atmospheric conditions. Toxic windstorms, unpredictable radiation levels, and limited liquid water would have deterred most species. Humans had not just survived here, they had thrived. Innovative terraforming techniques, advanced environmental suits, and modular habitat designs had transformed what should have been an impossible environment into a functioning colony. "They're not asking," Marcus noted dryly. "They're telling." Lieutenant Kim's fingers flew across her advanced communication array. Their transmission suggests total non-negotiation. Standard Confederation protocol. Minimal communication. Maximum pressure. Marcus remembered his days as a mining vessel engineer, a background that had taught him the art of improvisation. Mining ships were essentially mobile problem-solving platforms designed to adapt to the most challenging environments. Those same skills would now become their greatest weapon. He activated the colony-wide communication system. "All department heads, report to Emergency Command Center. This is not a drill." Within minutes, the most brilliant minds of New Horizon gathered. Environmental engineers, agricultural specialists, communication experts, and former military personnel formed a diverse team united by a single purpose. Marcus laid out the Confederation's demands on the holographic display. Dr. Samira Okoye, the colony's chief environmental engineer, was the first to speak. "They want our agricultural zones. These are the most advanced adaptive farming systems in the sector. We've developed crop strains that can survive in conditions no other species has managed." Marcus nodded. "They see our resources, not our innovation. That will be their mistake." The team began to develop a response that would challenge the Confederation's expectations. They would not fight with traditional military might. They would demonstrate the true power of human adaptability. The first step was communication. Lieutenant Kim began repurposing their mining communication arrays, creating a signal interference pattern that would make traditional Confederation tracking methods ineffective. Meanwhile, the engineering teams started modifying their mining lasers. Tools designed for resource extraction could become precision defensive instruments. "We're not looking to start a war," Marcus explained to his team. "We're looking to make ourselves impossible to dismiss." As the Confederation ships entered the colony's outer sensor range, something unexpected happened. The mining lasers, typically used for cutting through rocky planetary surfaces, began to dance across the incoming vessel's sensor arrays. Not with destructive intent, but with a precise, almost artistic disruption of their scanning capabilities. Each laser pulse was a carefully calculated burst of energy, designed to create maximum confusion with minimal actual damage. Navigation systems became temporarily unreliable. Communication channels became scrambled. The Confederation vessels found themselves dealing with a level of technological improvisation they had never encountered. Dr. Okoye's environmental systems came into play next. Localized atmospheric manipulations created sensor ghosts, false readings that made the colony appear to be in multiple locations simultaneously. What should have been a simple relocation mission became a complex puzzle that the Confederation seemed unable to solve. They expected compliance, Marcus muttered, watching the holographic display. Instead, they're getting creativity. The defensive response was elegant in its simplicity. No weapons were fired. No direct threats were made. The human colony had simply made itself too complex, too adaptive to be easily moved or controlled. As the Confederation ships began to retreat, reassessing their approach, Marcus knew this was more than just a successful defense. This was a statement. Humanity would not be a passive participant in galactic politics. They would be active, innovative, and utterly unpredictable. The New Horizon colony continued its work, the massive agricultural domes continuing to produce, the habitat modules humming with life. Another day had passed, and humanity had once again demonstrated that true strength lies not in firepower, but in the ability to reimagine the possible. The research complex stretched across 3 interconnected orbital platforms, a monument to human ingenuity. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood at the center of a whirlwind of creativity, surrounded by the most innovative minds humanity could assemble. Her latest project would change everything. A quantum communication system that defied every established principle of galactic technology. Dr. Kai Chen, the lead quantum engineer, manipulated holographic models that seemed to breathe with living complexity. Traditional communication networks are like rigid highways, he explained to the team. We're designing something more like a living ecosystem of information. The breakthrough had come from an unexpected combination of disciplines. Quantum physicists worked alongside neural network specialists, communication experts, and adaptive systems engineers. Each team member brought a unique perspective, breaking down the traditional barriers between scientific disciplines that most galactic civilizations maintained. Elena watched as multiple holographic displays demonstrated the system's core innovation. Unlike existing communication networks that relied on fixed transmission protocols, their new system could dynamically reconfigure itself. It was adaptive, self-healing, and capable of finding communication pathways that didn't even exist moments before. The Confederation's communication infrastructure is essentially a museum. Dr. Priya Agarwal, their communication theory specialist, remarked. They've been using the same fundamental transmission models for over 3 centuries. We're creating something that learns, adapts, and evolves in real time. The quantum communication array was more than just a technological marvel. It was a philosophical statement about the nature of information and connection. Traditional galactic communication systems were hierarchical and controlled. This new system was organic, democratic, and fundamentally unpredictable. Dr. Chen projected a demonstration. A complex network of quantum-entangled particles began to dance across the holographic display. Watch how the communication pathways form, he said. The particles moved with an almost organic fluidity, creating and destroying connections faster than any existing technology could track. Elena understood the profound implications. This wasn't just a communication system. It was a complete reimagining of how information could flow. Each quantum node could simultaneously exist in multiple states, creating a network that was simultaneously everywhere and nowhere. The team had drawn inspiration from unexpected sources: biological neural networks, emergent behavior in ant colonies, even the complex communication systems of Earth's ocean ecosystems had informed their design. Humanity's greatest strength had always been its ability to draw connections across seemingly unrelated domains. We're not just building a communication system, Elena explained during a secure briefing. We're creating a living information network that can adapt to any challenge. The practical applications were revolutionary. Military communication that could never be intercepted. Disaster response systems that could reorganize themselves in milliseconds. Scientific research networks that could spontaneously collaborate across vast distances. Dr. Agarwal demonstrated a simulation of the system's adaptive capabilities. When part of the network was deliberately disrupted, the communication pathways immediately reorganized, finding new routes with millisecond precision. Traditional communication systems would have collapsed. This one simply adapted. The Confederation classifies species based on their technological capabilities. Kai noted, a hint of satisfaction in his voice. They've never encountered a communication system that can essentially think for itself. The team worked with a sense of collective purpose that transcended traditional research methodologies. They weren't just developing a technology. They were challenging the fundamental assumptions about communication, intelligence, and potential. Late one evening, as the rest of the team retired, Alina continued refining the quantum models. The orbital platform's windows showed the infinite darkness of space, a reminder of the vast potential that humanity was only beginning to explore. Her neural interface captured every subtle adjustment, every moment of inspiration. This was more than a research project. This was humanity's declaration that they would not be confined by existing limitations. The quantum communication array continued to evolve, a living testament to human creativity. Each moment brought new possibilities, new connections that no existing galactic civilization could have imagined. In the silence of the research platform, a new era of communication was being born, one quantum pulse at a time. The makeshift conference hall buzzed with an energy that defied traditional diplomatic expectations. Representatives from human colonies that had once competed fiercely now sat side by side, united by a common purpose. Captain Marcus Chen watched as delegates from mining settlements, agricultural worlds, research outposts, and frontier colonies found common ground. Area Kim, now serving as the primary diplomatic coordinator, moved between groups with practiced efficiency. Her tablet displayed a complex network of connections, resource shares, technological exchanges, and mutual defense agreements taking shape in real time. "We've never been this unified," whispered Governor Imani Okoro from the Proxima Centauri agricultural colonies. Her fingers traced holographic displays showing resource distribution plans that would have been unthinkable just months earlier. The Confederation's attempt to divide and isolate human colonies had achieved the opposite of its intended effect. Each aggressive action, each relocation order, each attempt to marginalize human settlements had instead created a powerful network of collaboration. Dr. Elena Rodriguez arrived midway through the conference, her latest research providing a critical foundation for their united strategy. Her analysis of Galactic Confederation communication patterns had revealed systemic weaknesses that could be exploited through coordinated human action. "We're not just sharing resources," Marcus explained to the assembled delegates. "We're creating a dynamic, adaptive network that can respond to challenges faster than any centralized system." The plan was elegantly simple yet revolutionary. Each human colony would maintain its unique specialization, some focused on agricultural innovations, others on mining technologies, research, or manufacturing. But now, they would share these specializations freely, creating a collaborative ecosystem that could outmaneuver the Confederation's rigid hierarchical structure. A representative from the Titan research colonies demonstrated their latest breakthrough in adaptive terraforming. Immediately, agricultural specialists from 3 different colonies began discussing potential applications. Miners from the asteroid belt proposed modifications that could enhance the technology's effectiveness. "This is how we win," Area told Marcus quietly. "Not through military might, but through our ability to connect, adapt, and innovate together." The diplomatic gathering revealed something profound about human potential. Where other species saw boundaries and limitations, humans saw opportunities for collaboration. Each colony brought unique perspectives, technologies, and approaches to problem solving. Governor Okoro shared a plan for distributed agricultural networks that could survive in the most challenging environments. A representative from the Jupiter mining colonies immediately saw applications for their resource extraction technologies. Within hours, a collaborative project was taking shape that would revolutionize food production in marginal planetary systems. The quantum communication system developed by Dr. Elena Rodriguez's team became the backbone of this new human network. Information flowed between colonies with unprecedented speed and flexibility. What the Confederation saw as isolated settlements, humans were transforming into a dynamic, interconnected civilization. Some delegates brought stories of previous conflicts, resource competitions, territorial disputes, technological rivalries. Those tensions seemed trivial now. The external pressure from the Confederation had done what decades of diplomatic efforts could not. It had unified human colonies into a cohesive, adaptive network. "We're writing a new chapter of human history," Marcus told the assembled representatives. "Not as individual colonies, but as a unified civilization." The conference was more than a diplomatic meeting. It was a statement of human potential. Where other species saw competition, humans saw collaboration. Where the Confederation expected fragmentation, they would find unity. As the day progressed, more complex networks emerged. Research exchanges, resource-sharing agreements, mutual defense protocols, each innovation building upon the last. The human colonies were no longer isolated outposts. They were becoming something entirely new. Area Kim's diplomatic network continued to expand, each connection represented by a glowing line on her holographic display. What had begun as a defensive response was transforming into a proactive, dynamic civilization. The final agreement was not a formal treaty, but a fluid, adaptive framework. Each colony maintained its unique identity while contributing to a larger, more powerful whole. The Confederation had attempted to divide them. Instead, they had created something far more dangerous, a truly united human civilization. As the conference concluded, Marcus looked out over the assembled representatives. They were no longer just survivors or colonists. They were architects of a new future, ready to reshape the galaxy on their own terms. The Tactical Operations Center hummed with an energy that defied traditional military expectations. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood beside Captain Marcus Chen, her predictive algorithms creating a three-dimensional battlefield projection that seemed to breathe with living complexity. "The Confederation believes they understand our strategy," Elena explained, her fingers dancing across holographic interfaces. "But they're looking at a static map. We're creating a dynamic, living battlefield." The first strategic offensive was about to begin. Months of preparation, innovation, and careful planning had led to this moment. Humanity would not launch a traditional assault. Instead, they would strike with a precision that would redefine the concept of strategic warfare. Dr. Kai Chen's quantum communication network provided the foundation. Each human vessel and colony was now part of an adaptive, self-organizing system that could respond to challenges faster than any centralized command could comprehend. The Confederation's rigid communication protocols would become their greatest weakness. Marcus studied the holographic display, noting the carefully selected strategic points. These were not random targets. Each location had been chosen through a complex analysis that considered technological, economic, and political vulnerabilities. "We're not destroying," Marcus explained to his command team. "We're systematically disrupting their ability to maintain control." The first wave of attacks was almost invisible. Quantum communication interference created cascading failures in Confederation communication networks. Research stations found their data networks compromised. Trade routes suddenly became unpredictable. Military communication channels began to fragment. Lieutenant Area Kim managed the communication disruption, her fingers moving with surgical precision. "We're not breaking their systems," she reported. "We're making them unreliable." On the agricultural world of New Horizon, modified mining lasers began to target specific infrastructure points. Not with destructive intent, but with calculated precision that would create maximum disruption with minimal direct damage. Communication relays, resource distribution centers, and administrative complexes found themselves unable to function normally. Elena's predictive algorithms were the true weapon. Each strike was carefully calculated to create maximum systemic confusion. The Confederation's centralized command structure became its greatest vulnerability. Where they expected a linear response, Humans created chaos. Research stations across human-controlled space launched simultaneous technological infiltrations. Adaptive algorithms developed by Dr. Rodriguez's team found and exploited vulnerabilities in the Confederation's supposedly secure networks. Each infiltration was designed to create doubt, confusion, and uncertainty. "They've classified species into neat little boxes," Marcus noted, watching the strategic display. "We're about to show them how limiting that approach can be." The economic strike was perhaps the most ingenious. Human economists had spent months analyzing the Confederation's resource distribution networks. Now they launched a series of calculated disruptions that would create maximum economic uncertainty. Trade routes suddenly became unpredictable. Resource allocation systems found themselves compromised. The Confederation's centralized economic model, which relied on rigid, predictable systems, began to fracture. On the frontier research colonies, scientists launched their own form of warfare, not with weapons, but with information. Carefully crafted data packages began to spread through Confederation networks, challenging fundamental assumptions about technological development, species potential, and galactic governance. Alina's display showed the cascading effects. Each strategic point was not just a target, but a node in a complex network of systemic disruption. The Confederation's attempt to maintain control was becoming its own undoing. "We're not fighting their war," Marcus explained to his team. "We're fighting their entire way of thinking." The quantum communication network proved to be the ultimate weapon. Where the Confederation expected linear communication, human networks created dynamic, adaptive pathways. Military commands became suggestions. Economic controls became negotiable. Political boundaries became fluid. As the first phase of the strategic offensive concluded, the results were unlike any conflict in galactic history. No massive fleet battles, no planetary bombardments. Instead, a systematic deconstruction of a civilization's ability to maintain control. Lieutenant Kim looked up from her communication console. "They don't even understand what's happening," she said, a hint of wonder in her voice. Marcus watched the strategic display, seeing the complex network of human-initiated disruptions spread across multiple star systems. The Confederation was about to learn a fundamental truth about humanity. Adaptability was the most powerful weapon in the universe. The galactic communication networks buzzed with unprecedented activity. What had begun as a human strategic offensive was now transforming into a full-scale revolution of ideas. Species across multiple star systems watched in fascination as the rigid Confederation structure began to unravel. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood before an impromptu assembly of galactic representatives, her presentation a masterpiece of strategic insight. "We're not just challenging a political system," she explained, her holographic display revealing complex networks of technological and social interactions. "We're demonstrating a new approach to civilization." Captain Marcus Chen observed from the sidelines, understanding that this moment was about more than military strategy. It was about reimagining the fundamental ways species could interact and develop. The human approach had caught the attention of marginalized species within the Confederation. Races that had been confined to specific technological roles for centuries now saw a different possibility. The Zorn research clusters, long restricted to medical technology development, began sharing their advanced biological research with agricultural specialists from human colonies. The Krell engineering collectives, previously limited to specific industrial applications, started collaborating on adaptive technological solutions. Lieutenant Aria Kim managed the diplomatic communications, her team creating communication networks that defied traditional galactic protocols. Each interaction became an opportunity for cross-species collaboration, breaking down the rigid hierarchies that had defined galactic civilization for centuries. On the frontier research colonies, scientists from multiple species began working together in ways never before imagined. A Voxian quantum physicist collaborated with human neural network specialists. Krell engineering experts shared innovative design approaches with human terraforming teams. The boundaries between species began to blur, replaced by a focus on collective innovation. "The Confederation classified us as a developing species," Marcus remarked to Elena. "Now we're rewriting the rules of galactic development." The economic impact was profound. Traditional trade routes dissolved, replaced by dynamic, adaptive exchange networks. Species that had been economically marginalized found themselves at the center of new, more flexible economic systems. Resource distribution became a collaborative process rather than a controlled hierarchy. Dr. Kai Chen's quantum communication network proved to be the critical infrastructure. It allowed for unprecedented levels of information sharing and collaborative problem-solving. Scientific discoveries that would have taken decades now emerged in weeks. Technological innovations spread across multiple species with remarkable speed. Political representatives from previously isolated colonies began to gather, inspired by the human approach to collaboration. The Confederation's system of species classification began to crumble. Where once there were strict technological and social boundaries, now there were opportunities for collective growth. Elena's research revealed the deeper implications. The Confederation's classification system had effectively stunted technological and social development. By assigning each species a specific role, they had limited the potential for cross-species innovation. Humans had demonstrated that true advancement came from breaking down these artificial barriers. The revolution spread beyond technological collaboration. Cultural exchanges began to flourish. Music, art, philosophical concepts moved between species with unprecedented freedom. The rigid cultural boundaries that had defined galactic civilization for centuries began to dissolve. On multiple colony worlds, collaborative settlements began to emerge. Human colonies integrated with other species, creating hybrid communities that defied traditional understanding. Research centers became melting pots of innovation, where the traditional concept of species boundaries became increasingly meaningless. Lieutenant Kim's diplomatic network captured the transformative moment. Each communication, each collaborative project became a thread in a new galactic tapestry. The Confederation's attempt to maintain control was giving way to a more dynamic, adaptive approach to civilization. Marcus understood that this was more than a military or technological victory. It was a fundamental reimagining of how intelligent species could interact and grow. The human approach was not about conquest, but about creating opportunities for collective advancement. Dr. Rodriguez's final presentation to the Galactic Assembly was a turning point. She demonstrated how the human approach to innovation, collaboration, and adaptation could create solutions to challenges that had seemed insurmountable under the old Confederation model. As the presentation concluded, the assembled representatives from multiple species looked at humanity with a new understanding. They were no longer seeing a developing species, but the architects of a new approach to galactic civilization. The revolution had begun, and it was powered by the most unexpected force in the universe, human potential. The final confrontation was unlike any battle in galactic history. Massive Confederation fleets surrounded the human-controlled sectors, their hulking vessels a testament to centuries of military engineering. But military might would prove to be their greatest weakness. Captain Marcus Chen stood on the bridge of the adaptive command vessel Prometheus, a ship that was less a traditional warship and more a mobile innovation platform. Dr. Elena Rodriguez worked alongside him, her quantum communication systems creating a living, breathing network of strategic potential. "They're expecting a traditional battle," Marcus observed, watching the incoming fleet formations. "We're going to give them something entirely different." The human fleet was a marvel of adaptive technology. Each vessel was more than a weapon. It was a problem-solving platform. Mining ships repurposed as communication disruptors. Research vessels transformed into adaptive defense nodes. Agricultural support ships became mobile resource management centers. Lieutenant Area Kim managed the communication networks, her fingers dancing across interfaces that seemed to breathe with living intelligence. The quantum communication system created a battlefield that was simultaneously everywhere and nowhere. The first wave of Confederation attacks seemed overwhelming. Massive energy weapons fired, designed to obliterate entire planetary defense systems. But human defenses were nothing like traditional military installations. Adaptive shield technologies absorbed and redistributed energy. Entire planetary defense systems shifted and reconfigured faster than targeting systems could track. Dr. Kai Chen's technological innovations proved to be the ultimate weapon. The human ships didn't just defend, they actively transformed the battlefield. Communication interference created cascading failures in Confederation command structures. Navigation systems became unreliable. Each Confederation attack was met with a response that defied traditional military logic. "We're not fighting their war," Alina explained to the command team. "We're fighting their entire way of thinking." The battle moved beyond traditional three-dimensional space. Human vessels created dynamic communication networks that turned the entire engagement into a fluid, adaptive system. Where Confederation commanders expected linear responses, human teams created chaos. Smaller human vessels darted between massive Confederation ships, using modified mining lasers and communication disruptors. They weren't attempting to destroy. They were systematically dismantling the enemy's ability to maintain cohesive control. Marcus watched the strategic display, a complex holographic representation that looked more like a living ecosystem than a traditional battle map. Each human vessel was a node in an adaptive network, capable of responding to challenges faster than any centralized command could comprehend. The Confederation's rigid military structure became its greatest vulnerability. Communication channels fragmented. Strategic commands became suggestions. The hierarchical command structure that had maintained galactic control for centuries began to crumble. Collaborative teams on human vessels worked with unprecedented coordination. A mining ship's engineer would communicate with a research vessel's communication specialist. Agricultural support teams provided real-time adaptive strategies. The human fleet moved like a single, intelligent organism. Alina's predictive algorithms turned the entire engagement into a complex problem-solving exercise. Each Confederation attack was anticipated, redirected, transformed. The massive alien fleet found itself fighting an enemy that didn't follow any known rules of engagement. "They're trying to win a war we're not fighting," Lieutenant Kim remarked, watching the strategic display. The final moments of the confrontation were almost anticlimactic. The Confederation fleet, with all its massive weaponry, found itself completely unable to achieve any strategic objectives. Human vessels didn't destroy. They systematically rendered the entire military operation irrelevant. Massive Confederation warships became nothing more than expensive, confused objects floating in space. Their communication networks fragmented. Their strategic command structures collapsed. They had brought overwhelming force to a battlefield that no longer followed their rules. Marcus looked at Alina, understanding that this was more than a military victory. This was a fundamental challenge to how civilization understood conflict, strategy, and potential. "We didn't just win a battle," he said quietly. "We demonstrated a completely new approach to existence." As the last Confederation vessels powered down their systems, surrendering to an enemy they couldn't comprehend, humanity had rewritten the rules of galactic engagement. The revolution was complete, not through destruction, but through the most powerful force in the universe: adaptive potential. The Great Assembly Hall of the newly formed Galactic Collaborative Network stretched across multiple environmental zones, a testament to the diversity of species now working together. Dr. Alina Rodriguez stood at the center, her presence both a symbol of humanity's journey and a blueprint for a new approach to civilization. Captain Marcus Chen watched from the side, understanding that this moment was about more than political transformation. It was a fundamental reimagining of how intelligent species could coexist and grow together. "We're not creating a new hierarchy," Alina explained to the assembled representatives. "We're creating a dynamic, adaptive network of potential." The old Confederation structure had been completely dismantled. In its place, a new system emerged, one that prioritized collaboration, innovation, and collective growth over rigid classification and control. Species that had been marginalized for centuries now found themselves at the center of a new approach to galactic development. Dr. Kai Chen's quantum communication network provided the infrastructure for this new collaborative system. Information flowed between species with unprecedented freedom. Research discoveries, technological innovations, and cultural exchanges moved across previously impenetrable boundaries. Lieutenant Area Kim managed the diplomatic coordination, her team creating communication protocols that celebrated diversity rather than constraining it. Each species was invited to contribute its unique perspectives, technologies, and cultural insights. The economic transformation was profound. Resource distribution became a collaborative process. Species that had once been confined to specific technological roles now found themselves free to explore their full potential. Research centers became melting pots of innovation, where the traditional concept of species boundaries became increasingly meaningless. Marcus understood that this was more than a political victory. It was a fundamental shift in how intelligent life could organize and develop. The human approach was not about domination, but about creating opportunities for collective advancement. Collaborative settlements began to emerge across multiple star systems. Research stations became living laboratories of interspecies cooperation. Cultural exchanges flourished, with music, art, and philosophical concepts moving between species with unprecedented freedom. Alina's final proposal to the Assembly was a comprehensive framework for collaborative development. It emphasized adaptability, innovation, and collective problem-solving. The old system of species classification was replaced by a dynamic approach that celebrated individual and collective potential. "Our greatest strength is not our technology," she told the assembled representatives. "It is our ability to see potential where others see limitations." The scientific community was transformed. Research networks now spanned multiple species, with collaborative teams solving challenges that had seemed insurmountable under the old system. Medical breakthroughs emerged from unexpected combinations of knowledge. Technological innovations came from cross-species collaboration. Planetary development became a collaborative process. Terraforming technologies developed by human agricultural specialists were combined with environmental engineering approaches from other species. Each world became an opportunity for collective growth and innovation. The political structure that emerged was fluid and adaptive. No single species could dominate. Instead, a dynamic network of collaborative governance took shape. Decision-making became a process of collective problem-solving rather than hierarchical control. Marcus reflected on the journey that had brought humanity to this moment. From a species considered marginal and underdeveloped to the architects of a new approach to galactic civilization, the transformation was complete. Dr. Rodriguez's closing statement captured the essence of their achievement. "We are not creating a new empire," she explained. "We are creating a living network of potential. Each species, each individual has the opportunity to contribute, to grow, to discover." The assembled representatives from multiple species looked at humanity with a new understanding. They were no longer seeing a developing species, but the architects of a new approach to collective existence. Lieutenant Kim's diplomatic network captured the transformative moment. Each communication, each collaborative project became a thread in a new galactic tapestry. The old systems of control and limitation had been replaced by a celebration of collective potential. As the assembly concluded, the representatives understood that they were witnessing something extraordinary. A new era of galactic development had begun, powered by the most unexpected force in the universe, the human capacity for adaptive potential. The revolution was complete, but in many ways, it was just beginning.